Jordan, man, I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. Intangible podcast is about these intangibles that people don't see, and especially for football players who wore a helmet and all you remember is a name on the back of the jersey. And so you're very well accomplished. You went from an undrafted free agent, to doing big things on the field, to earning the nickname Big Play Babs, to making transition out of the sport into media, into getting the MBA, and then into now consulting and developing culture, helping companies develop their culture. And so we just want to dive into your story and talk about these different intangibles that's made you who you are. But before we get into all of those accolade pieces, man, let's talk about growing up in, is it Port Arthur, Texas, or is it Port Arthur? Okay. All right.
Depends on where you grew up.
Yeah.
Port Arthur, man.
Port Arthur, Texas, man. A lot of legends come out of there, man. So I want to just kind of go back there and take me to your from your upbringing.
Yeah, the origin story. It's I've come a long way, and we've come a long way. From growing up in Port Arthur, and I can still remember, a lot of the negative influences around what I would call, it was clearly poverty. Spence, we didn't know how damn poor we were. We didn't know how poor we were, from serve sandwiches to government cheese, man. That was life for us really in the country. But there was something bigger. And I think, the one thing that I'll tell folks that, anyone when tell my story or wherever they are, is that your circumstances don't define your outcome. I grew up as the youngest of five. And as you can imagine, Spence, all of my clothes were hand-me-downs. But a lot of too was also watching my older brothers. And I'll never forget, when my older brother graduated high school and set off to go to college, that immediately became a goal for me. And what I didn't realize is that as the younger brother, that I was always chasing the shadows of my older brothers, that I wanted to, do something greater, do something more. That competitive sibling rivalry started to root in me. And, even today, my brother and I, who, you had a chance to share some time with in Atlanta, went on to play 12 years with the Atlanta Falcons, a second round draft pick, but I'll tell you, it wasn't an easy road growing up, in a single parent household. But it was definitely, I think, a huge part of the fabric, and of who I am today, and certainly grateful for those memorable moments. Yeah.
Jordan, how did you balance that competitiveness with your brother and not let it cripple you? Because I know, having a brother who was living in my shadows, he didn't too much care for that, and he started a little bit of football and he quit because he didn't want to, he kept hearing, do this like your brother, be this like your brother. And that really affected him. How did you balance that going through, high school and now, figuring out this is my goal, I want to be better than him. How did you not let that really, cave you as an athlete, but also mentally, knowing that he was making big strides?
I always felt like there was this battle between he and I, and there was this push and pull, and this, he'd have the lead and I'd have, then it'd flop, and then I'd have the lead and it'd switch. And it really felt like that growing up. Well, and even my two older brothers, one of my oldest brother, played golf in high school. And I was like, well, I want to play golf in high school. You know what I mean? Like for me, it just felt like I was just like they were setting the path for me to walk in, except me walking into it. I just wanted to do it better than them. Right. I wanted to beat them, which I don't know where the drive came from but it was I don't know, it was in me to do something better than them, but also to, in my own way, be them.
Yeah.
And so, so I think that was probably the core of, why it didn't necessarily push me away from wanting to be them. It actually, drew me in to want to be like them. So
when did football become that thing, that light, that switch that flipped and said, this is going to be my way out of where I am in my environment to do something bigger? At what point of your high school career where you were like, all right, football is this is my thing?
well, I'll tell you this, and this is kind of, you know, the root of how we even got into sports in general. Um, when I was 8 years old, my father passed,
Mm,
and it was it wasn't something that I knew, how to accept or what death was. I mean, it was the first like really close relationship to death that we encountered. And as in that young of age, you don't know how you're affected by it. You don't know, I mean, how to even process it. You're just more so watching the adults and kind of like, what are they doing and what's happening and how do I act? How do I respond? Well, for me, it triggered us, behavioral outbursts,
mm.
and I was a badass kid. Not bad in terms of trouble with the law, like but bad just in terms of acting out, seeking attention, and in fact, Chris, um, like school came easy for me. Like I was a scholar kid, and I was highly intelligent or committed to education. Like that was, I mean, even today, I mean, look, after I played football, I went back to get an MBA. I'm
Right.
continuously learning. Even when I played football, I mean, as you know, the reason I was able to sustain a career is because of my ability to understand a game of football. Like
Right.
I played every position in the secondary. I knew what every member on the defense was doing. Right. So education, like, I mean, it's a high value for me. Right. And God bless my kids because they have to hear it. It's like my daughter now is 16. It's like, Dad, is that the only thing you want to talk about? It's like, it's just like, I mean, not really, but yes. I mean, like performance in school was a big deal. And in fact, I mean, it was so competitive where I grew up. I mean, it became competitive in school to perform well and get good grades. And um, so competitiveness was all around me, both not just in sports, but also in the classroom. But for me as a kid, I mean, what it did was triggered behavioral outbursts after the loss of my father. And so my brother and I mean, he and I are close in age, I think 11 months apart. And so, I mean, we would go into the grocery store with my mother, and you know, I mean, we couldn't get up and down an aisle without throwing something in the bag, asking for something, knocking something over, or terrorizing something. And one day, this man approached my mom in the grocery store, and she gave he gave her an outlet for us and asked. He said, "Ma'am, would you like to put your kids in football?" Now, this is when Pop Warner football, and I
Right.
think maybe it was just starting, but early on. I mean, so we talk about football. It's like, yeah, I started playing football before the age of 10, and have done this for quite some time. And for us, it was an outlet of you know what might have you know been a more traumatizing turn for me specifically. Like, I mean, I was pretty close to the drug abuse. Like it was 2 blocks away, and you're seeing transactions. You're seeing junkies down the street, homelessness, violence. Like all of. I mean, we grew up in that,
Hmm.
but football became a way to like essentially be a diverted plan for us to like have something different, a way for us to spend our time after school in a safe place,
Yeah.
a way for us to use sports to get all of the intangibles that we didn't know that we were learning. That's how we got into sports,
Yeah.
man. And you know it it ended up being a great path for us and something that my brother and I just continued to stay committed to. because that's where, we continue to learn and hone in on what it is to be competitive and, preparing to go, have essentially tests, which was, what we call games, and, and facing our own fears, right? I mean, the first time you put on pads and you have to hit, you're lined up and you lined up in a line. You got to see the guy on the other side who you got to go head up with. You're like, oh man, he's a badass. You'll really have to bring it. And I don't know, there's been times too where I'd like kind of move myself in the other part of the line. I backed up and pushed somebody else in front of me because I didn't want to go head up with the guy. But bull in the ring, the other drill, you laying on your back, laying on your back, and, you got to get up fast and go tuck.
Oklahoma drill, baby.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Spence, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And I would say, that was, all part of the DNA that have helped shaped us into, what eventually became, pros at the sport. So, that's the story of how we got started. Ever since Pop Warner, man. I'm a Pop Warner legend.
Oh man, here we go. Let's okay. Here we go. Come on now. Come on now.
I mean, they have my cleats molded. They've molded my cleats.
You're talking like a DB right now. You're talking like a DB.
Hey, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You go to the Museum of Port Arthur. There it is, a statue of Jordan Babineaux's cleats.
All right. well, Jordan, you end up going to Southern Arkansas. And you have a good career, and your brother gets drafted in the second round, and then you end up coming out and being a free agent, and you go on to carve out a tremendous career as an undrafted free agent. What was that process and that transition like? And that chip? Did you have a chip on your shoulder, or was it the mindset of I'm still chasing my brother to do better than him in the NFL, or was that mindset now about who did Jordan want to become?
Spence, it was easy. It was an easy path. I don't know why more kids don't do it. I'm teasing. I'm like really teasing. In fact, Spence, and you already know this because you're one of the 1%. There's 1 million high school kids who play football. Competitive football, right? There's about 74,000 of them go on to play college football across any division,
right.
1, 2, 3 NAIA. And of that 74,000, there's about 7,000 of them are draft eligible each year. And you and I both know, I mean, you're first round draft pick. Only 254 names. Is it 254? 254 names are called each year in the draft, or 251. And that's less than 0.023% of the people who dates back, I don't know, what would be 5 or 6 years from playing high school football. Which means, Spence, you have a better chance at applying for business school at Harvard University and winning the lottery on your way to practice.
So it's wow.
That's how and I'm like, I don't know. I can't clearly define, all the things that had to happen for that moment to exist. Here's what changed for me. And this is when I knew that there was a sure possibility of playing on Sunday. So I played at Division II college football at Southern Arkansas. And, I'm still laughing because I can hear the stories of all of the guys in the locker room and talking about our mascot. I mean, guys like the Rebels, the Canes, the Cougars, the Trojans, all of these, high profile Division I schools. And, I went to Southern Arkansas, and of course, my mascot, we were the Mule Riders. That's
right. I do remember that.
Generally a reaction that I've been accustomed to, Spence. But it's, and the funny thing is that, and I tell the story, is that, when I first got to the league, is that, they talked about our mascot. We were the Mule Riders. I went to the Division II college football career. and we both ended up at the same destination.
Same spot.
My brother went to the University of Iowa. Now, this is Big Ten football. They have all the training facilities. They have all of all of the resources available to them. They have the best of the best in terms of coaching and training programs and regimen, that sort of thing. And so my senior year, I called my brother and I asked him, I said, well, ask your coach if I can come work out with you guys. I want to come. I mean, if this is my chance to go play in a National Football League, I need to come know that I'm prepared to play alongside the best of the best in the world, because this is the pool of players that they're coming to choose from. And so I got permission. And so I go to Iowa. Now, this was in the middle of what we call their championship run. I mean, they were, pretty close in terms of BCS bowls. I mean, Dallas Clark, they had Fred Russell, they had, they had a lot of star talent. Robert Gallery. I mean, they had draft picks. They had a really good championship window. Played in the Orange Bowl, one of the BCS bowls. And when I get there, what I realize, Spence, is I'm just as fast, just as strong, if not faster and stronger than the other players. And I'm like,
there's a chance.
This it's an eye opener.
Yeah.
Here's how I translate that to folks who are thinking about like career transitions, or who are thinking about, in the form of businesses, that when you put yourself in environments to grow, undoubtedly you will grow. It will force you to raise your standards to a new level to achieve something that you didn't even know was possible was within you. I mean, maybe there was a glimpse of it. Maybe you probably, peaked at a moment, but then, went back and normalized it a bit. But when you're in an environment where you have to perform at a high level, and I'll give you the effects of it, is that it forces you into a new level of greatness. That's valuable. And so what it did for me after leaving and training with them for, a month and a half, I went back to Southern Arkansas my senior year, Division II College Player of the Year, All-American,
statue.
Division II college. I don't have a statue, but I am in the Hall of Fame, Spence. I don't have a statue. Not yet.
Hall of Famer.
And here's the thing. The reason I don't have that statue, Spence, is because I didn't donate that $500,000 that they wanted. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. You got to pay for that statue, that naming rights. But that's really valuable, because my sense is that there's someone who's listening to our, to your show, who may have doubt of going to, the speaker conference, or, the national conference of their industry, or, deciding to join a board or this social group because it, for whatever reason. And I'm telling you, like, that's the exact reason why you should do it, because there's growth there. And anyone in terms of performance who wants and desires growth and leadership, whether it's career or personally, the environments that you place yourself in will either pull you there or pull you down. And that became what I think was the great intersection for me in knowing that, the possibility to play on Sundays. Well, I didn't know how I was going to get there, and I didn't necessarily think I was going to be a high draft pick, but I knew if I had a chance, give me a chance. That's all I need. And fortunately, the Seahawks was the organization that gave me a chance, and I made the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, you make it to the Seahawks, and you become what you call a special teamer to start out with. And you become a really good special teamer. And then all of a sudden they start putting you in games on the defensive side of the ball, and you start making big plays, pick sixes, I remember the play on Romo, the tackle on Romo in the playoff game. And those are the things that really started to earn this nickname that now everyone calls you is, big play Babs. What was that moment? What was those moments like for you of all this hard work and knowing that if I get there, I'm giving myself a chance that I'm going to shine in the right moments, and you were able to do that. What was that process like for you? And how did you not get the big head? I mean, I think you still have a little bit of that, but
they call it humor these days. You know what I really enjoyed most? I mean, people ask, like, "Hey, do you miss the locker room?" It's like, no, I don't. I don't miss those guys. They're they're jerks. Most of them. I'm teasing. Uh, uh, I miss the running out of the tunnel moments. And the one thing for me, look, and we'll, I know we're getting there. It seems like we're building up to it, right? Because I'll tell you, I spent nearly a decade in the NFL, facing adversity, playing at peak performance, high performance, where you had to be exact, you had to be right. You're freaking under a microscope in terms of wins and losses. I mean, every play, every rep, every snap, every year. There's a draft. People are. I mean, job security is there's no
There's no
security.
security.
Like, come on, like these are the stakes, man.
Yeah.
These are high stakes, and I'll tell you, like, the biggest challenge wasn't that road to make it into the NFL. It was the transition that came after.
Yeah.
I'll bookmark that because
Yes,
I know
please.
we're headed there.
Yes.
But the reason I share that, because the one thing that I miss the most is the running out of the tunnel moment. You've built in these hours of week long preparation, and getting your body to perform and your mind to operate at a high level and react in a matter of splits of a second, just to be exact, so you can have and make that one competitive advantage against your component. And for even in every way, in everything that I do, I'm always continuing to seek that running out of the tunnel moment. It's that moment when, right before taking the stage, right before game time, right before kickoff, when they're singing the national anthem, you just got this high boost of just like, and now I got to get it through golf, man. It's like, like I'm getting it through golf now. It's like this 3-foot putt for $1 against my friends. It's like my run out of the tunnel moment. No, I get it from speaking now and working with organizations, and I still have that sense of, in terms of preparation and high impact, and again, looking at the film and making the adjustments and correcting, in the middle of sequences and drives, to try to get the best outcome. Because as much as it was about the game of football, it's transitioned to the game of life.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's it right there,
I'm a
man.
husband. I'm a father. I'm a business owner. I'm a community driven by community impact. It's embedded in everything that I do. And again, you talk about the intangibles, but I think what goes beyond the intangibles now have been a professionally developed skill, and we've equipped ourselves with those tools in those moments that that is just, I can't say it's innate, because we train for that,
Right.
man.
Right.
Like we developed, this high sense of pressure situations to remain calm when others, who experience chaos, experience anxiety. They can't function. They don't react the same way. They're operating outside of their element of who they would be in a normal sequence. And so, beyond the intangibles, this is great. And again, as in our early childhood, like we couldn't place that. We couldn't define it. We
Yeah.
couldn't place words
Yeah.
on it. But as we became professionals at it, and anyone who has, job experience, they form their own level of intangibles as well.
Mhm.
They professionalize those skills.
Right.
I mean, you can't tell me that a CEO of an organization don't have those intangibles that they've honed in and have now become a sense of greatness and made them who they are when you're leading organizations. They still exist. You don't have to be a professional athlete,
Exactly.
to possess these intangibles. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in our role and in our path, that we've professionalized, how to perform under pressure, how to deal with adversity, setbacks, resilience, perseverance. And those are key skills that any great leader must possess. If you think about any great leader in the world, organization, sports organization, or any industry across the board, those skills are pretty present.
Well,
and I know for sure in your work, as you're doing that great work in your technology platform and building that out and talking with teams and leaders, my sense is that there's some interconnectedness between those key skills of what makes a great leader a great leader.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about one key thing I think about particularly as an athlete, is that constructive criticism. How do you receive that? And as an athlete, because we sit there with their clicker, we're watching film over and over again, you thrive on like, give me feedback so I can go and correct it. And so as talking to several CEOs and GMs that we've had interviews with, there's a common thread with that is, how do I continue to improve and not rest on it? And like, I want to hear the feedback. And so I think that's one of the biggest threads that I've seen in some of the conversations that I've had. But you mentioned like, that transition, and we're going to get there. But before we get there, I know a little something about the 2-minute drill, and we like to do a little 2-minute drill before we go into halftime.
This is when I make my big plays, Spence.
Yeah, so
I make my big plays right here. Let's go.
Here we go. So I'm gonna give you a couple of soft tossers. I'm gonna give you a couple picks here. Some easy throws to see what you come up with. Give me your best your best Seattle secondary memory.
Across the franchise, or just doing my playing days?
During your playing days. We're talking about big play Bab now. Don't be humble now.
Okay. Well, humility is it's a part of it. My best a playoff game versus this kind of goes into it, but it's the playoff game versus the Cowboys. It was Terry Glenn and Terrell Owens and T.O. I mean, we were like down. We were pulling people off the street to come play in the secondary.
Yeah,
and I never forget it. This was the week of. I mean, we're calling guys off the street. This guy was literally bagging groceries the week prior, and next he's playing in a playoff game, having to go to war with some people that he barely knows. And so I remember having to play Terry Glenn and T.O. and that time I moved me to corner. I mean, I was moving, but I started cornerback that game, and T.O. was my assignment. Now, I'm not saying I shut T.O. down, but I'm saying T.O. only had 2 catches. But you know what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, that was my best Seattle secondary.
All right. The funniest teammate that you've ever played with. That could be college, pro.
I'm stumped. I'll tell you. How about Witty? My wittiest teammate.
All right.
Lofa Tatupu.
Yes.
Lofa. I mean, like he wasn't like a clown, right? Yeah. So it's not necessarily like funny or a big jokester. But I mean, this guy
He's quick.
He got the almanac for one-liners if you've ever seen him. I'm like, where do you come up with this stuff, man? I mean, you talk about a form of wit. So I'd say Lofa probably wins my wit award.
All right. Okay. Your favorite stadium atmosphere? I mean, that's kind of should be really easy.
It was CenturyLink back then. It went to Quest Field. Now it's known as Lumen. But Lumen Field, I haven't played in every NFL stadium, oddly enough. I haven't played in Baltimore. I never played in Cincinnati. And I never played in New England, mostly AFC teams. By the time I did move over to the AFC, my time with the Titans, I was only there for 2 seasons, so it wasn't enough to cycle through all of those teams. But I would say, having played in most of the NFL stadiums, and having been in most of them, even as a fan, Seattle fans, there's nothing unlike it. Now, because I'm probably a little biased, you know what? Here's the thing. I actually played in Seattle with the Titans, and it was a preseason game, so maybe the energy wasn't there. The other stadium, I would say, the non-Seattle stadium, and this is my first stadium, my first NFL game. I'll never forget it. The historic Lambeau Field. Now, Green Bay has they have a pretty good following and fan base, and boy, they can piss you off with those damn chants. And even more than that, getting to the stadium, you're driving through the neighborhoods. It's neighborhood, house, and boom, voila, you have this big monumental, historical landmark known to the sports world as Lambeau Field. But I mean, you can leave that stadium, man, and you can get all the most kindest gestures from the neighborhood that one can imagine. Good luck on your way out. Lambeau Field would probably be my close non-Seattle stadium to play in.
All right, perfect. Well, that's a good 2-minute drill, man. I appreciate that. Let's jump back into your transition. It's transition out of football is not easy. I know for me, you go from someone telling you what to do, where to be, how to dress, how high you had to wear your socks, you get fined if you're overweight, and all of a sudden, and the one I remember is that $450 you was getting fined per pound per day. And I always try to stay away from that as a lineman, as a big lineman, we had to worry about those things. But you go from
look at you now, you can play point guard in the NBA, man. What are you down to 260?
I can't move that fast now. But you're going through this transition after having that kind of structure for a big portion of your life to now. I'm out of the game. What do I do next? How do I do it? How do I create my own schedule? How do I create my own workout? And you don't even think about these things when you're in those moments of, getting a piece of paper and being told where to be. And, so for you make this, I would assume from outside looking in, a very smooth transition into going back and getting an MBA, writing a book, to pivot outside of the game. What was that transition like for you, and how did you make it at least look seamless, from the outside looking in, or was there a lot of turmoil within you making that transition?
Spence, well, thank you for that. And I think probably a component of that was, hey, even under pressure, never let your opponent know, or never reveal publicly that our coach Gus Bradley used to call it bad body language, BBL. Wait, no, I ain't talking about it.
You know what's funny. One of my early episodes.
That was an acronym.
One of my early episodes, I had Hasselback on, and he talked about bad body language, but he kept using that, and I was like, no, we can't use it anymore. We can't use it anymore.
No. Either way, in life and in football, no BBL. Okay, it's no bad body language. No, but thank you. I'll tell you this. One of the hardest things for me was moving away from sport at a time when I thought that I still had more to give to the game, and I wanted to play. I just finished my 9th season, and I would say, a career low, right? And ended the season not necessarily hurt, but I had previously gotten hurt 2 games prior to the season ending, played the last game, but not at the level that I wanted to play. Contractually, I had incentives in my contract that front office and management decided that they regulated my playing time and my ability to get on the field so I can hit those metrics. I was sour with the game, man. I'm not kidding. I couldn't even watch. I didn't want to watch football, man. I was like, I'm just not interested. Like, it's great, it's fine, it's cool, but outside of me having, the funny thing is too, CP, is that I was working in sports as an analyst, and it was crazy. It's like, I never forget, the producer came to me and said, because it's like, I was still protecting the team, kind of this motto of, never not throwing your players under the bus and teammates under the bus, that sort of thing. I was still protecting players as I'm talking about and describing what happened in the play. And what I realized, and my producer and I realized, is that I'm not necessarily giving fans a full scope of what's happening in the play, because I don't want to, call anyone out by name and
Right.
say, whose fault it was because it was a blown coverage. But here's how I made my way around it. This is a little growth, and I'll get back into it. I just used areas of the field. Well, the flat defender in this particular play wasn't in the right position. So it helped me. It helped me move from, still kind of wearing the hat of a player and being interviewed to now being a broadcaster and giving value to the listener to help them better understand and educate them on the game. Um, but but the struggle was that you go from best in the world to not being told that you want to know more, to feeling like your skills aren't valued, to understanding who you are and this new version of yourself. And how do I reestablish this high level of not just performance, but also high stake moments in my life, granted, while not getting the same kind of income, still living the same kind of lifestyle, managing relationships, understanding job security, finding new meaning in life, managing I mean, on and on, right? And it just felt like, hell, where's the playbook for this?
Yeah.
And 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 there isn't. And so one of the things that I became passionate about and that I have helped spearhead the work that I'm doing now is helping players transition out of the game of football, and in a way where even now, let me see, it's 2025, 13 years now out of the game, over a decade out of the game, is that I don't. I'm not necessarily saying that I've done it right or I have all the right answers. I'm saying I've walked this path a few steps ahead of you. Let me guide you through what's about to happen. There was total recalibration, not just from those things that I mentioned, from value, who am I now, understanding identity, and then transitioning into something more meaningful and still finding value in my life. But there was a whole reset, mental, psychological, physiological, muscular. It was a compound effect, I think, of just like what is normal.
Mm, mm.
And I think it's the biggest understated um, uh, process that a player has to go through, because it's not just like, hey, let me find a new career and I'll jump right into it. You're talking about high stressful moments, nonstop, mentally and physically, that you've just exerted your body through over time, stacked it over a decade. I mean, over a long career. Like, how do you're just going to reset back into normal life? That's not something that just happens in a day. That's
Right.
not something that even by reading a book you now understand and know how to do it well. Again, this is it's relatable because of the way we view our armed forces and our men and women who served in the military. Is that the transition to calibrate into civilian life is not easy, but again, many of them suffer because for whatever reasons, right? Lack of resources or unused resources or mental challenges of like, who am I now in this new identity phase of my life? And um and there was a lot of resentment. See, Chris, I'll tell you, personal resentment that I had to overcome. And whether it was, missed plays, missed moments, missed opportunities, um, you know, kind of this grudge against the game of football, that I had to work through. And so, while it may have seemed easy, um, or looked easy externally, internally I had my own kind of personal battles.
In that battle,
But the one thing, yeah,
no,
go
I
for it.
say in that battle. Sorry to cut you off there. In that battle, what was the one thing that kind of kept coming to the surface for you about who you were, that you realize, okay, this is where I need to lean into.
Well, the one thing that kept the positive outlook on everything was keep moving,
Mm,
keep moving. And I think anyone who's going through transition, whether it's a career transition, whether it's a close personal loss, divorce of a relationship, death of a loved one, moving to a new city, job relocation, job layoffs, whatever the transition is, there's an identity shift. There's something that we've gravitated to in terms of labels that have in some part defined us.
Mm-hmm.
But what has continued to help me grow was movement. And it wasn't about having the right answer, all the time. It was about getting to the next play, essentially, right? The next moment, the next day, and even for some, as tough as the next minute. I don't want to negate the fact that in some cases, like professional help is actually a great outlet.
Absolutely.
That we don't necessarily have to do this on our alone on our own. And that was the other thing too. It felt like I know if I'm experiencing this, I know what others are experiencing. They're experiencing the same thing. Yet we feel so isolated in our transition. And when we get there, is that, oh, there's no answer. No one understands me. And we take this, we kind of label it that people don't get me. People don't understand who I am. And I'm saying this too. I know that there's a group of people who are suffering from depression and anxiety, and there's a need for personal and professional help. And I recommend and champion that. So it was something that I had to work through on my own. And even today, I've transitioned through a few, therapists, and now working with a sports psychologist. And I think it's something that, because I've operated and performed at a high level, because I understand the value of a coach. I mean, it's why I coach in transition now. And I think people underestimate the value of a coach in general, not necessarily people telling you what to do and how to do it, or examining your life, or wanting to judge you, or wanting to critique you and tell you all the things that you're doing wrong. Is because we need outlets and people to share ideas with, to know that we're actually doing something right. The world will tell you that you're doing too much wrong. We need people to, to champion us and get our pom poms. Like, where the seagulls at when I need them? Like, put your cheer. Like, I need my tribe to cheer me on. And so I think that's important to state, because I don't want to overlook the fact that transitioning away from anything is simple. But I do believe that there's ways to do it. So, CP, I have this framework, right, that I use, that talks about pivot. And you can see background, right? I book Pivot to Win. Go get it. It's on Amazon. So pivot, right? It's like re-identifying purpose, right? P for purpose, right? What is the new purpose, right? Re-identifying and understanding what your why is. Innovation, right? Moving through change and creating new ideas. I think the one thing that most people will get stuck with, and we see this quite a bit in startup companies, and they transition away, or they pivot to something else because they've taken the information, collected some data, and now understand that there's a new business model that might exist, or something different that might be a new opportunity. So when we're innovative about who we are and reinventing ourselves, we can see new opportunities. Vision, have a vision, right? There's something greater in our life that we still want, not being tied or wrapped up around a model, an identity, the status quo, right? Being certain that there's a vision and something that you're working toward. Oh, ownership, right? Taking complete ownership of it. It's easy to blame the economy for a down market. It's easy to blame others for your lack of, or it's easy to blame your boss for laying you off. Blame is easy, right? Ownership, right? And I think the ownership isn't necessarily that someone else might be responsible for the outcome that happened to you. The ownership is what are you going to do now? Because something's changed,
right?
It's not the same. It's not the same. So what are you going to do now? And I think that's the ownership component of it. And T, being tenacious, having a tenacious attitude about anything in life. And I don't care what it is that you want in life. There's going to be opposition that's going to come against you. You want to go on a diet and lose weight? You go to a dinner. They're going to be offering you your dessert. You want to start a new business, they're going to tell you all of the hurdles that comes
Right.
with getting a license and
Right.
getting insurance. If you want to do anything in life, there's opposition. So you got to be tenacious about it. Pivot. That's the acronym I use when helping people transition.
Well, Jordan, you've definitely made a strong pivot, and it's good to hear it's not easy. There's a turmoil, but you've been able to stay calm and take what you've learned in football, stay calm under pressure to make to keep moving. To stay tenacious, but the biggest piece that I've heard is taking ownership of yourself, taking ownership of the things that instead of pointing the finger at someone else. I wanted to do that, but then how do I look back at myself and figure out how do I continue to move through this transition? And so it's tremendous to see athletes who've done it at the highest, who's worked their way from the bottom all the way to the top, and now is able to take those same skill sets and transition and start again from the bottom and work their way back up. And it's been great to see that upward trajectory of your new career. And I love that you're coaching. I'm actually wearing this shirt, the pro athletes community.
You're down there with Caleb.
Yeah, and those guys are doing a great job, and having resources and guys like yourself who've been there and done that to help guys see around the corner. Here's things that I've struggled with through this transition, and now you're able to help other guys do that with your coaching, but also because you're still close to the game and guys are making that transition and with your work in the corporate space, I think it's just a good blend of what your skill sets are to really help corporations understand, these skill sets of athletes and people who are making that career change in general, but these skill sets that can really help build a strong culture. And so for me, the last couple questions I have for you is, taking those same skill sets and making that transition into what you're doing now, what are a couple of things from the coachability aspect that you're trying to impart on your clients and helping them make that transition to a new career path?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I want people to have this desire and self belief. It has to start with self, and then two, just know that the possibilities exist. Like it's possible. Like the reason I was, say the reason. I mean, I had this creative imagination as a kid to one day be Deion Sanders, like to one day be like Jerry Rice, to one day, right? And I was like, why can't that be me? And there's far too many, too much evidence of success that exists for anyone to not have a blueprint in anything that they want to do. Now, I say that, but here's what I'll add to it. Here's the asterisk. It's not easy.
Right.
Nothing
is easy.
People don't rise to the top and become the best of the best in the world because they had a smooth path. No. And that's the difference. That's what separates, really good from the great, from making a team to never being heard of, is that there are people who are willing to do the work, and there are people who look at obstacles and take the easy way out.
Yeah. Well, I hear that knock, Joe. And so my last question for you is, when you look back over your career and how you've gotten to where you are, what are those intangibles that's made Jordan who he is today?
Oh, geez. You want a list of them, or you want the top three?
Just give me a top three. Give me a top three. I like that you have a list, though.
Persistence.
I like that you have a list, though.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on. One, persistence, and again, persistence is the continuous chase to achieve a certain outcome. Perseverance. Perseverance is along this persistence path. I want to achieve this goal. I'm going to face obstacles. How do I overcome them? And then resilience. Resilience is, I see this goal. I see this hurdle that's in the way. I didn't necessarily get over the hurdle. I fell back.
How do I get up?
And so how do I persevere, in the face of adversity, despite the obstacles that are coming against me, because I want to get to the other side of this problem or this hurdle or this to reach this outcome. So I think persistence, perseverance, and resilience are like baseline, I think, intangibles anyone who wants to achieve something great must possess.
Jordan, man, as a former teammate of yours, and watching your success, watch how you've just stayed steady. I'm really proud of you. Proud to call you a friend. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story with my audience, and we're looking forward to really putting this out there and continued success for you. And I think I need to get on a call with you and talk about some of this career coaching that you're doing, man, because you seem like you got to really figure it out. So really appreciate you joining the Intangible podcast today.
Absolutely, super excited, and for all of our listeners who stuck around up until the end, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, all social platforms, Jordan Babineaux. I'd love to get connected, hear your stories. And if there's something that I can be of value either to yourself, to your organization, or to the people that you're dear, that you know well and want to see succeed, I'd be happy to talk and extend our conversations far beyond. But know one thing, I know that I'm not for everybody. And so I just love the passion of thinking and hearing other people's stories and how might be able to add value. So look out for me, Jordan Babineaux, pivottowin.com.
There he is, Jordan Babineaux.
Okay, now, Chris, what Matt told me is that you send a show like hospitality box of all of the goodies and stuff.
Bourbon bottles. I'll give you my
address.
Bourbon bottles.
I'll give you. Yeah. All right, I'll hold you to it. Now, thanks, man. Enjoy catching up with you, and absolutely, I'll hold you to it. We got a Zoom call off camera to talk about some of the great things that you're doing as well, and if there's ways for you and I to suit up the uniform again and have that running out of the tunnel moment.
Yeah, I like it.
I welcome that.
I like that.